Please take a moment to listen to this disclosure from the Common Ground podcast. The Common Ground podcast is dedicated to exploring commonality among individuals with diverse perspectives. Our guests may present unique worldviews related to health, psychology, and overall well-being. Please note that the Common Ground podcast does not directly promote or endorse any specific ideas, concepts, or actions discussed during our episodes. Listeners are encouraged to approach the information shared with discernment and to consult with their mental and/or physical health providers before making any changes to their health or wellness practices. The views expressed by guests and hosts are their own and do not directly reflect the opinions of the Common Ground podcast. Your well-being is important, and we advocate for informed decision-making. Thanks for listening.
How can you love someone? If love is possible in this conversation, how can you love someone without vulnerability, or what role in general does that play?
But you kind of have created a work resume for yourself of like the pieces that you want to advertise. You know, you could always tell yourself like, well, if it's the right person, they'll understand and they'll support you. But people have needs, right? Like no matter what, there has to be that two-way street. That really like wholesome validation. It's not like I got a post that has 10,000 likes on Instagram. Like I don't care about that. But to have people that I love and that I really respect and care about validate like that core love of music that I have is the most beautiful, fulfilling thing to me.
One of the balls that often gets missed is identifying receiving versus giving love languages, because the way that people give love.
Welcome to the Common Ground podcast, where stories connect, perspectives collide, and purpose is found in the middle.
Every week, we sit down with unique and inspiring guests that come from all walks of life. People who challenge the status quo, overcome the odds, and live with intentionality.
Whether you're driving to work, on your morning walk, or just looking for that spark to ignite your week, you're in the right place.
Welcome to the Common Ground podcast with your hosts, John Fletcher and Sydney Kirk.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Common Ground podcast. I am your host, John. You can call me Philly. I'm here with my partner in crime, as always, Sydney. And we have a very special guest, Mr. DK Lyons, in the house. So we are very, very, very happy to have him. To give you a little bit about DK and who is DK. Well, let's start this way. DK told his mother when he was 5 years old, one day I'm going to be a rock star. And ever since, he's been making that happen. He was born in Massachusetts. He's based out of Manhattan. He debuted his first EP in 2020 and organically got 25K following him with no advertisement, just organically. Speaks a lot about just his pure talent. In August, he is releasing his third EP. He is one of the most hottest and up and coming artists there is. I've truly you got to check out his song Love Seeking, and you got to check out his new EP when it drops. I know he just released Stop, and I think he's releasing just another one. I think I saw either a new song released just recently or going to be released. But definitely, you want to get this EP. You want to check it out. Trust me, you're going to be singing it for days. The Love Seeking. Just a little bit of magic. I just did so horrible to him. But the DK is awesome. Let me just say hi to DK. Hello, DK. Welcome to this show.
Hey, John. Hey, Sydney. Thanks for having me, John. Such a great intro, man. I really appreciate it. And I'm so glad that you're enjoying Love Seeking and are as excited as I am about this EP coming out here.
Man, I think that now any shows that you have to do in the future, you have to get them to sing a line from your song, because now they've got a lot to live up to with John.
That's a high bar he just set right there. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if anyone could even come close.
I mean, he'll be here all week, so it's we'll just keep breaking those records for you. You'll always come back to the Common Ground podcast
and I'm here twice on Sunday.
More big and famous. There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
Too funny. So
before you start, I gotta interrupt you because I gotta do my normal joke, and I contemplate. I almost did a real joke today, but I went back to the corny dad jokes, and so I just want to tell you, I know a lot of jokes about retired people, but none of them work.
9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. I like it.
Oh boy.
Oh man. Well
the
done.
Common Ground podcast if we didn't start out with one of Philly's dad jokes, that's for sure. He keeps it fresh for us. DK, thanks again for being here. It's super nice to see you, to meet you, to have you on our show. So you've just known you wanted to do music your whole life.
Pretty much, yeah. I kind of discovered music at a very young age. I was introduced to classic rock radio by my parents, like age 5. I became obsessed with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, like all-time favorite artists. Got to see them, I think, 12 times before he passed away in 2017. Um, just a massive influence on me. But yeah, as soon as I discovered, you know, classic rock music, I picked up a tennis racket and started humming and singing songs, pretending to play guitar and imagining myself, playing in front of people and making my own music. And it hasn't stopped. I've gone through periods of my life where I thought I could walk away from it, but it's in my head 24/7. I've always just had this kind of radio antenna up where, even when I'm at night, when I'm trying to go to sleep, I'll hear like a new melody in my head and be like, oh, I got to write this down, or I got to do a voice memo or something. It truly is 24/7 for me, but I love it so much. And it's afforded me so many amazing experiences already in my life in terms of, writing it, recording it, playing with, friends in my band, meeting people, all of that good stuff. And as you guys know too, music's just about kind of that emotional release, that catharsis, and that connection you have with it. So I think that's why it's such a special art form.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when you first started getting into music, did you have like an instrument that you were drawn to, or was it vocals, or was it always music collectively? Where did your knowledge of music comprehension and understanding translate to it being not just a passion of yours, but your entire life?
Yeah, I've always loved the guitar. I think that's kind of like the big shiny object I was attracted to as a kid. And actually, I'm a failed guitar player. I took lessons 3 separate times as a kid. Didn't stick any of the times. And then funny enough, my sister decided to start learning guitar when she was like 10 or 11. And I got really jealous and I stole her like music book one day and started teaching myself how to play. And it was like Blink 182 songs and like really easy kind of fun pop punk music. That's kind of where I started to teach myself how to play, and it's kind of just grown from there. But I fell in love with the process of recording music, and so as a result of that, I've learned how to play a little bit of piano, a little bit of bass, a bunch of other random things. I had a drum set in my basement as a kid too. Did not ever take proper drum lessons. Would just put headphones on and play along to my favorite music. So no formal training, just kind of that, again, going back to that itch of like hearing something I really loved and wanting to figure out how to play it. And that's how I've kind of grown as an artist from there.
No, that's incredible. I think that there are people that are just musically inclined in that regard that don't need that formal training. It's just a like God-given gift that you hear it and you breathe it, and that's how you operate. I am not that way. I had to be trained to like I play the piano and not
Amazing.
I might add, just I can write my own things with the little knowledge I have. And that kind of brings us into, our topic of today too. So music was a passion of yours, you're self-taught, you do all of these wonderful things. And our topic today is love possible? So my question for you is, how did this become such a profound topic to you and become incorporated in your music career?
Yeah, I think love is one of those core subjects that a lot of music is drawn to. It's it's love, it's fear, it's loss, it's faith. It's kind of these like big tentpole items in life, and I've always definitely been drawn to that love aspect. And the EP that is coming out kind of started with this one song called Love Seeking, and it's just generally a song about looking for that deeper connection, that sense of magic, and not settling for anything. And I think it's applicable to not just romantic love, but love in your relationships with friends and family and your passions and all of that. And from there, I kind of got this crazy idea of, I wonder if I could write out a full sentence, chop that sentence up into bite-sized bits, and write songs for each of those bits. So when you play the EP, the track list spells this sentence out, and it kind of all fits into this theme. And I realized that at the time I was writing it, was thinking a lot about love, and in the context of, modern culture with social media and dating apps and AI and technology just kind of taking over everything. And then in terms of, seeing long-term relationships where maybe, the spark wasn't necessarily there, but it was love in that context of that true kind of like partnership, or, this more like fleeting love. Like I'm a chronic overthinker. So the song Stop is really just about like an encounter where like, you know, you stop thinking for a minute and just like enjoy a moment of passion with someone, because that's also a core human experience. And the last song in the EP kind of explores the root of probably all of it is, you know, I lost my father when I was 6 years old. And I kind of grew up watching, you know, my mom be such a superhero as a single mom, but also talk about her relationship with him. And they were together for 20 years before he passed away. And the way she talks about their relationship is this like beautiful, deep, multifaceted, amazing thing. And I think that kind of it's good and bad for me. It was a great influence as kind of like this North Star for like what you should try to achieve, but also is kind of in stark contrast with the reality I was seeing, you know, kind of, you know, growing up and maybe not having that same experience for a long time. And so long-winded way of saying like, those are kind of all the topics that got kind of infused into this EP. And the overarching question kind of comes back to, yeah, is love possible? Is true love really a thing? And, you know, the answer that I kind of give at the end is it almost doesn't matter, because we're put here to seek love no matter what. Like, what else is there that's really fulfilling and you know, core to the human experience other than trying to, you know, seek out love?
Yeah, it's good.
You know, in talking to you, I really appreciate that when you look at this subject of love, and I think it's a great subject to look at and really dissect. I see that you talked about fairy tale love, you know, when in our discussions, but you've also talked about pain. You've also talked about reality, and I love the fact that for you, when you're looking at this, you're not specifically looking at it from one point of view. You're looking at it through your journey, which included all three, the pain, the fairy tale, the okay, what really is love. And I think that's kind of what you're striving people to really come to grips with and go on their own personal journey through that. But as you looked at your mom, and let's start back with your mom, like your when your dad died, and you said your mom and dad had this kind of fairy tale love, but for you, that love was pain because you were missing your father. Um, how did can first of all, let's go back and honor your father. Can you tell us what kind of man your father was and what he meant to you?
Yeah, my dad was just such an amazing person. He had a really cool job. He ran this dirt airport on Cape Cod, Massachusetts. It's actually the oldest active dirt airport, I think, if not in the country, at least in the Northeast. And I was just back there a few weeks ago because some of his friends still run it. And not only was it really cool that he was a pilot flying these like World War II era biplanes and just an absolute badass, but he created this amazing community there. All these kind of like misfit pilot types that would come and hang out at this old school airport, and they would just sit around and tell stories and go flying. And it was just this really, really cool environment. So when he died, it like, obviously there was a huge personal toll for me, but you know, there were over 300 people that showed up at his funeral, and there, you know, so many people that count him as a father, beyond just, you know, myself and my sister. So it's been really incredible growing up and continuing to learn more about him, and knowing how much he meant to people. But I mean, just an absolute hero to me, and knowing how he was as a person. Like, I've always tried to strive to kind of, you know, take on some of those similar qualities that he had. So yeah, he's just a really, really cool dude, and he loved Tom Petty, and that's why I love Tom Petty. I remember sitting in the back of his car driving to that airport every day during the summer, and it was a different Tom Petty album on every day. And just really a really deep connection throughout all of that.
That's really incredible. I love that you have those memories, and I'm so sorry that you lost him way too soon. That's heartbreaking, but it sounds like the impact that he's left on you and your mom has been a really beautiful thing. and all of the people that loved him too.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, my mom is also just such an incredible guidepost for me. She was so strong raising two kids and working. She's actually just retired college English professor, but she was going after her PhD while we were all young, and she was editing magazines and still running the airport for a good amount of time. And just a incredibly beautiful, sweet, smart person. So you know, really lucky to have her in my life, and you know, getting to share so much with her throughout all this.
Well, they raised a pretty incredible person.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask you a big question, because to ask the question, is love possible? We have to start by defining what love is. So, with your life experiences, how do you define love?
Yeah, I'd read a quote from George Harrison recently, where I think it was like in the late 90s, and he was like, yeah, I'm George Harrison. Like, I was in the Beatles. Like, I've had every experience possible. I could have whatever I wanted. But he was like, at the end of the day, I just want someone who knows me to my core. And I think that is what love really is you know, it is being so close with someone that you both have this like soul level understanding of each other, and you know, everything kind of just like sprouts from that. And like I said, that could be a romantic partner, it could be a sibling, it could be a friend. But I think that for me at least is what kind of defines love. And then it makes you do certain things, right? It makes you be selfless and give, you know, give yourself to help this person no matter what. And it makes you do crazy things to, you know, to show your love. And it makes you stick through tough times, because you know that there's something that's at its core that, you know, that's keeping you in that love. So that's kind of where I'd start. If it's one of those concepts that's like, I think it is impossible to define. And I think if anyone actually really tries to say this is exactly what it is, like, it's different for every person, and it's one of those things that's almost better that it's impossible to, you know, put in a dictionary and have it be this like rigid thing.
So you, your definition right there is probably going to go against my question, but because I'm gonna put you into that box that you said that you just can't be in. Um, when you look at love, like one of the things you said is that like love makes you stay through things and stuff. One of the things that I've kind of defined when I'm looking at love is that love is a choice. I think there's like love as a choice and love as emotions. Like we get emotional feelings, but that's not love. That's infatuation. That's uh other kind of stuff, you know? But the choice is, do you choose to love somebody or do you not choose to love somebody? Um, how do you feel like in your journey, do you come to like thoughts like that or conclusions like that, or do you feel that it's not as, I guess, a choice, you know? Because I think for some people, they'll argue that love isn't a choice. I don't choose who I fall in love with. I don't choose. But I think you do choose if you're going to love that person or not. So I don't know. What's your feelings on that?
I'd say it's probably somewhere in the middle ground, right? Like, I think you're absolutely right on in terms of, you know, you don't necessarily choose who you fall in love with. And I think about like the core people in my life, and I think why they're the core people in my life. And it's because of going back to that, like, there's just this deeper understanding, this deeper connection where, you know, we could spend infinite amount of time with each other, and feel this overwhelming sense of like, you know, purpose and comfort and all those things. But I also agree with you that it is a choice sometimes too, because there are relationships change over time. You know, you think about the concept of like a lifelong friend, like your connection with them isn't going to be the same as it was when you were 5 years old or 15 years old or 20 years old. And so at that point, it is kind of a choice. Like, am I going to choose to continue to love this person, or I don't really feel like the same deep or the same type of connection we felt when we were 10. So that means that's not love anymore. Like, I don't think that's true at all. Like, I definitely, it definitely is a choice at that point, because you know that there's this deeper this deeper level to that story and that connection where, it's might be a little bit of work to adjust yourself to this new chapter of that, but it's worth it nonetheless.
I want to follow up with that, and I want to say, I guess this is where I kind of come from, is I hear a lot of people say, well, oh, I just fell out of love with somebody. Do you feel that love is easy? Do you feel that love is hard? Do you feel that it's neither?
Yeah, again, I think it's probably somewhere in between. I don't think I'm a very like binary person, right? Like I like to live in like defined, like is it a yes or is it a no? Is it a zero? Is it a one? And I think the biggest thing I've had to learn as I've grown up is that life lives in that middle ground, right? Like there's going to be times where love is incredibly easy, and there's going to be times where love is incredibly hard. And I think it's the hard times, like it'll sound cliche, it's like the hard times that define you because, you know, if it's easier to just walk away from something, then of course, like you want to do things that are easy, but they're never going to be the right decision, I think, in the long term, usually, because doing things that are hard work have that longer term satisfaction that I think is, what's really worth going after, I guess. But that again, that's my POV on it. I would say for different people, it's different things.
What role does vulnerability play in love and all types of relationships? Because I think that one of the things that society very commonly misconstrues is that you can love someone, but that typically what we see in today's society, and I attribute it to why our divorce rates are so high and why we have people that are getting married much older and not having kids, and we still have separate bank accounts in the context of marriage and things like that, has to do with that we've been taught by a generation of people that were hurt by marriage in the past. And from my position, it's when we left God out of the equation, but that's a whole other rabbit trail. People tend to protect self before the people that they love. How can you love someone, if love is possible in this conversation? How can you love someone without vulnerability, or what role in general does that play?
Yeah, I think it's a really, really interesting question because the idea of vulnerability is you're opening yourself up to like greater levels of hurt down the line. And I think to your point, there has been now this precedent for, decades of higher divorce rates and we've become, I think, especially in America, very self-centered. And I think there's benefits to that at times where it's led to maybe more ambition to do things and chasing different types of fulfillment outside of just the core kind of, you create a family and you find fulfillment there. But I think it's probably the pendulum is swung too far, where now it's very individualistic, and I think people are less apt to share their whole selves with people. And again, I'd be curious to see if there's like evidence to back technology kind of being behind that, right? Where, like I'm not on dating apps. Dating apps are fine for some people. I don't necessarily support them, but you kind of have created a work resume for yourself of like the pieces that you want to advertise versus actually just being yourself. And, being in person with someone and doing it on the fly is hard because you can't just present the rosiest picture of yourself. You have to kind of be vulnerable and be willing to flub and to put your foot in your mouth and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I am a big, obviously, as we're having this discussion, like I'm an open book. I'm very much big on vulnerability. And I think it's essential to love. And I think I'd have a hard time believing you could create something sustainable without that level of vulnerability and giving over a good part of yourself to this partnership that you're basically kind of agreeing to with someone.
Well, and I just want to say I love that question, Sydney. And I want to take that question and I kind of want to flip it slightly.
Do it.
And because when we talk about love, we think about it as person to person.
Mm.
But you're a musician, and from my conversations, your first love is playing music. And so I want that vulnerability question because and almost expectations and all that kind of stuff because with you and your music, because how does vulnerability play in you? And I think the other thing about past, like she talked about like past relationships shaping it. Well, you've seen like past magicians fail. You've seen, you get told all the time. Hey, I know as an entrepreneur, people are told all the time, oh, you're never going to succeed. You're never going to, do that. So how do you, because this is your first love, right? Your first love is your music, right? And
Yeah.
I know that I can talk to you like this because this podcast is my first love. I get exactly me. I can relate to you so much. But so how does vulnerability play? How does love play into your music and your journey of music?
Yeah, it's the thing that keeps it going, right? Like, as you can attest to, it's like, what am I going to do? Not do this thing? No, it would drive me crazy. And I get to the end of my life and I would regret everything. Um, is it really, really hard sometimes because you spend so much time and emotional energy creating something, and if it doesn't get the response that you're hoping for, or you're not hitting the milestones that you like had kind of set out for yourself, like that's kind of what's meant to challenge you and challenge your faith in what you're doing. But at the end of the day, like there are moments where when I'm working on a song and I kind of get to a point where it's a rush like no other, where I'm like, I just made something that makes me feel more alive than most things in my life. Um, and that's where that core of love with music comes to. It's like no matter what, I'm making this for me, because I love it to my core, and it doesn't really matter if anyone else does. And it's hard to keep that mindset consistently, but that's definitely um, kind of the foundation I try to rely on when those challenging moments come up, and kind of keeping to that core thing in my gut that just tells me this is what I was meant to do.
So how do you deal when you're that vulnerable and you have that song, you're like, man, this this made me happy, but it doesn't get the response that you wanted. How do you mentally deal with that?
Yeah, it's I mean different things. I think there's a part of me that gets to that point, and I think I've been putting out music long enough now where I care a little bit less, because I just know that you can't live and die on every single thing that you do. And there's also too, like I'm definitely bad about this, but finding external outlets that have nothing to do with music, ways that I can just go find joy in something else to keep me away from it. And for me personally, it's like baseball. I'm a diehard Red Sox fan. I eat, sleep, and breathe baseball. Or if it's the winter time, it's going skiing, it's being in the mountains, it's finding these escapes that ground me in other areas, because I have other loves outside of music in those arenas. And so I think it's trying to just stay as balanced as possible with everything else I'm doing. So again, I'm not living and dying by the response to a song that I'm putting out, or a video, or an EP, or whatever it might be.
I like it. That's awesome. So whether we're talking about music or relationships or your family, what are some of the most significant sacrifices you've had to make in the name of love? Because we can talk about all of the good things about love, and it's really, like you said, the hard times that shape us as people and define our relationships. What has that looked like in your life?
It's a great question. I think I feel like now for the past almost 10 years or so, since it's not been quite 10 years, I'd say 8 years since I started recording music professionally, it's been just a nonstop investment of my money, my time, my creative juices. I've had to defer gratification on a lot of fronts. I have a day job. I work in video production at a creative agency. And I could easily just be clocking in, clocking out at work, and spending my free time enjoying the spoils of that job. But instead, I'm taking what I make and putting it right back into the music, and I'm working from 6 to 10 at night and early in the morning sometimes on music. And I've really tried to not let it impact my personal relationships, but I'm sure that it has in some areas where I have to just prioritize certain things that I know I need to kind of have the time or the energy for music. And again, it's just trying to find that balance, and also knowing that if I don't make these kind of sacrifices and these choices, like I will fall behind and I will be selling myself short on this thing that I've loved since I was 5 years old. So I think it's not been any one big sacrifice necessarily, but it's been just that like kind of constant commitment, that deferred gratification, and that just having to grind for so long now.
Yeah, I understand the time sacrifices and the relational sacrifices for sure, especially when referring to your love of music, because anything that you're passionate about, it's almost like, especially in startup phases, which I know is not where you're at, but they stay a baby for so long. And it's so funny because I talk about my kids, and if I look back, they've grown up so fast, but the days feel long and the years feel short. And I feel that way with my businesses, where it's required such time sacrifices that it killed my relationships. And I just knew that what I was building was for something bigger than me. And it required that sacrifice. And it felt like I had to choose a love. And that led to me, I think, having more fears about love and like those person to person components, because my kiddos and my businesses have now been my baby for so long that I have reservations. So with all of the sacrifices that you've made for your loves, what fears do you have about love, and how have those fears impacted how you approach love?
Yeah, no, I mean, what's great to hear that you have kind of continued to push for those things that are bigger than yourself. I think that's really admirable. And I think you could always tell yourself like, well, if it's the right person, they'll understand and they'll support you. But people have needs, right? Like no matter what, there has to be that two-way street. And I think it's been an accrual of experiences to this point. I've got my core friends that are always supportive and always understand if I have to be like, hey, sorry, I can't come hang this weekend. I got a gig to prepare for, things like that. And I had a previous relationship where there wasn't that level of support and understanding, and actually made me retreat from music more than I would have liked at the time. And that's kind of why I spent a good amount of time not really being in romantic relationships, because I had that experience of I lost myself for a little bit, and it took me a really long time to claw my way back. And I was like, I'm not giving this back again. But then I met someone last year who is just the most supportive, understanding possible person you could imagine, who has never once asked me to give up any element of the music journey, because she understands how important it is to me and has done everything she can to help lift it up and support it. So something like that just is, it's hard to find. I will admit that, like I'm very lucky, but I do believe it is possible.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think when we truly experience true love, you're focused on the other person's happiness. So I'm sure you're in the same way wanting her to achieve everything that she wants, just as much as she is there for you, trying to help you achieve everything that you want and
Oh,
not going to get in the
absolutely.
way.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you balance um the different loves in your life, and how do you keep, like, I know one of the key things in faith is keeping God your first love, renewing that first love constantly. So in with whether it's music or a relationship, how do you keep that fire burning? How do you keep that love fresh? When you're doing music, and I think this is great for anybody who's an entrepreneur or anything else, because they devote everything, they give up, they sacrifice, like you've talked about, the sacrifices you've made, the sacrifices that Sydney's made, sacrifices that I make. We all sacrifice things for our love. But at some point, sometimes it can become just a chore and not you've lost sight of that first love. How do you keep it fresh? How do you balance it in your life?
Yeah, I think I'm really lucky to have so many different types of love in my life. I've got an incredible relationship with my mom and my sister. We are like just incredibly close. I have a kind of core group of friends and family. So there's like those, that's an arena that I have. I have the romantic love, I have the love for the music. And I think just making sure I'm devoting time to each of those. And when I go devote my time to one, it kind of replenishes the well for another. And it's mainly the music well, obviously. But I think too, on the music front, while there are lots of moments of not getting the gratification, it's the moments of gratification are like tidal waves. Like when I play a show and our band has worked really hard to get ready for the show, and we have this big audience that is just in it the whole way, and everything goes off, and there's this just like cathartic connection with these people. It's a high that I ride for like a week after. It's like the most amazing feeling in the world. Or I spent, no joke, like hundreds of hours working on this EP, and finally played it for my band last weekend over my buddy's speakers, and they were all just like losing their minds. Like they were just over the moon, and they're all like incredible musicians, incredible singers, incredible songwriters, producers. So like to get their like exuberant validation, it was just like, it refills that well so much when you are so thoughtful about something for so long and work really, really hard to make something that you think is good, and then have like that really like wholesome validation. It's not like I got a post that has 10,000 likes on Instagram. Like I don't care about that. But to have people that I love and that I really respect and care about validate like that core love of music that I have is the most beautiful, fulfilling thing to me.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. I'm like thinking about all of the things that you've said. Have you heard of the 5 love languages before?
Yes, I don't really know a whole lot deeper into it, other than I generally think I know what they are.
I want you to do so, like, this is really relevant to what you're doing. So I'm going to give a nutshell, and then I'm going to ask you a question. So I'm putting you on the spot a little bit with your limited knowledge, but it's a pretty basic concept.
Excellent.
One of the things that is really crucial in human relationships is the way that we give and receive love. So there's a psychologist that has broken down the 5 major categories in which people give and receive love. What people often confuse is this is a common question that people will ask, for example, when they're doing premarital counseling, is they'll identify each other's love languages. One of the balls that often gets missed is identifying receiving versus giving love languages, because the way that people give love can be very different. Now, some people are simple creatures, and that makes it easy for everybody. They give and receive love the same way. So the 5 categories for the love languages are acts of service, time, physical touch, gifts, and words of affirmation. And so all of those things are categories in which people give and receive love. Is that something that you've noticed just generally, without having to name a specific relationship? This is where a lot of people find conflict in their relationships, be it a friend or a significant other, is that there is an inherent conflict in the way that one person is receiving love and one person is giving love. Do you have any experience with that at all?
Yeah. Without any specifics, I can definitely think of friendships and past relationships where there was that kind of disconnect. And I think it probably took me a while to identify that was there. And I think it did mainly come back to how I need to receive love. Because I think, generally I'm pretty good about picking up with people what they kind of need. But I think for a long time I was neglecting my own needs. And I think your point is like so spot on, that people lose sight of that, and they don't maybe even know how to recognize it themselves, or B, even if they do, know how to ask for it, or know how to receive it, obviously. So I think it's a very common thing. Yeah, it's a great question.
Well, as an entrepreneur, I think that one of the things that a very common love language that a lot of people need, not that as entrepreneurs or people who work independently or have a passion that requires so much time, I think one of the things that we need less generally is time, is because we have our time spread so thin already. I don't need boatloads of your time to know that you love me. As I've gotten older and deeper in the weeds into these business journeys, and you may be able to relate to this, I've found that it's the words of affirmation that mean the most to me. And it's so ironic because as a kid, words meant nothing to me because I had such a toxic upbringing that I couldn't trust the words that were being said to me. And it was just a pivotal moment when I had to refocus on developing these businesses and investing in my children and investing in myself and their future, that time became so much less crucial. And it was just people saying that they understood where I was at and that they appreciated the work that I was putting in and they saw the effort that I was putting forth. That became probably my number one love language at the time. And acts of service, because at the end of the day, I don't want to do dishes. So if anybody wants to do my dishes, then I'm game for that too.
Absolutely. No, I think it's such a good point. And, I obviously don't know the in-depth of your backstory, but I think on my end, the words of affirmation has always been tough because I've always had this very like this deep undercurrent of like abandonment issues from losing my dad. And then I lost a number of family members at a young age. And then had just like people kind of walk out of my life that had claimed that they had, loved me and cared about me. And so I think there was a time where I really was distrusting if anyone ever told me anything. And I think it's taken me a lot of work to get over that. And I'm one of those people that like if someone a year or two ago, if someone tried to like pay me a compliment, my immediate reaction would either be to like deflect or like make a compliment about them immediately because I didn't want to latch on to that and just to have did not mean anything. So like I'm sure you relate to that. So it's trying to work on getting better about that and actually believing people and knowing how to like take that in because I think you're right. That is at its core as entrepreneurs, is people that put your heart and soul into something that is ultimately kind of what you're looking for back, is that affirmation that keep going, keep doing this thing. It's your core, it's part of your core. It's important to you. I recognize that that's important. And I think you're doing a great job.
And I appreciate that you said that too. And thank you, because I lost my mom when I was young too. So I have that abandonment complex, or I did for a really long time. And it's almost that our reactions as people to receiving one of the love languages, when someone extends that offer to us of the words of affirmation, for example, and we feel our body not sit with that and try to do, as you said, deflect or respond with a compliment or make a joke of it, it's almost an indicator of our opportunities to heal those wounds from love that we have. And I started treating it that way instead of being uncomfortable in it, just recognizing it as an indicator of where I was at in my journey and what I still had that I needed to reconcile. And it was instrumental in being able to get to a place where I could sit with those better. I still am not somebody that takes it maybe as best as I could, but it's a continuous work in progress, as I think the journey of love is in general. What's one thing about the way that love is portrayed in society that you would change?
Great question. First and foremost, by the way, really sorry about your mom. And I think that response was really, really powerful and beautiful that you had there. Like I need to take more of that in my life as well. So, you should be really proud of yourself for recognizing those indicators and like even knowing like, hey, I'm not a finished product with this, but like I'm doing better with it. So it's really, really inspiring. I would say the way that love's portrayed in society is really, it's in a tough spot right now. I'm not going to lie to you. And I'm not trying to rain on anyone here, but like I think the proliferation of all these reality TV shows like Love Island and Love is Blind, it's just so, to me at least, it's so crass and so hypersexualized and just surface level, and it's all about clout and it's all about social currency of what you're doing versus actually loving what you're doing. And I think it's really just changed society as a whole. And it's really sad to me. And I think there's not a lot of good love songs out there right now. I don't think there's a lot of good TV shows that portray love really well. And I think that's why one of the most like striking things that I've come encounter with in the last year that actually worked into one of the songs was there. I don't know if you guys have seen The Last of Us. I'm still making my way through it, but there's the episode with Nick Offerman that's kind of like that offshoot episode where you know, he falls in love with this guy and they end up being together and to their old age, and they, you know, they have this moment where, you know, the one guy is very sick and is going to die, and Nick takes the pills with him, so they go out like together. And I think like that to me just like bowled me over emotionally, because I was like, this is what people should be seeing. And this like long, like it's arduous, but it's beautiful, and it's all these different complicated things, and it's not just this like instant gratification dopamine strike. Like that's not what love is. So I think I would love to see more of that in the media that we consume, and not just this frivolous crap that's, you know, perpetrated everything. Sorry, it's a bit of a rant, but that's my response to that question.
That's funny because that leads me to like my question. But first of all, I want to say I can't agree with you more. Like I'm a big late 80s, early 90s R&B, where to me that was like they don't have the love songs. Like as corny as like All in One, like I swear it was, it's so different today than what that was. It was like love songs were about getting a girl and not, you know, just having a girl. And like I think it's just so just different today. And that's why I think I really resonated with your love seeking song, because it took me back to those kind of days. But yeah, and it brings me to kind of like my question, and it's gonna take me a little bit to explain it, but because yeah, I agree with you on where we've gone. Um, First of all, when we talk about love, I want to say you don't need another person to experience love. I think sometimes we we think that the only way to experience love is to be in a relationship, and I think what I want you to talk about is your journey on this, but finding love for yourself. I think you can't love somebody else until you love yourself. And I think that I see too many people jump from relationship to relationship trying to find something, and they're never going to find it because they haven't found it for themselves. And they're not going to find it in somebody else. Somebody else can't. Like, I think one of the, it used to be like the most beautiful line to me, but it's like, as I actually sit back and look at love, it's one of the worst lines ever written in a movie. And that is in Jerry Maguire, where she goes, "You complete me," because that is so the wrongest message you can ever send. But every woman was like, "You complete me," like because they were looking for that guy to complete them, and that should never be. Now, I think sometimes we also, and this is where I said why I wanted to explain this, we can also go too far in that, and it becomes so selfish that when we look at relationships, it's all about what am I getting out of it, and I'm not willing to do any hard work. You know, I'm going to cut you off as soon as you don't do anything. Like as soon as you cross off one of my things, and we've become very selfish at points too with that inward love. And so I think there's a balance. But what's your experience on what I was kind of just describing there?
No, it's really interesting. So I got out of a relationship, you know, a number of years ago now, and my sister kind of like we were having a conversation about it, and she was like, your life is like a pie chart, and you know, you need to be filling up that pie with as many things that complete you. And if someone else leaving takes such a big chunk out of that pie that there's no pie left, then you need to rethink about what you're filling that pie with. And so I completely agree with you. I think if you take that same like pie concept, if you have an actual pie, like love and relationships and all that is like the really delicious, amazing stuff that goes on top, like the whipped cream and the cherry and all that kind of stuff. But at its core, like you need to love yourself, and you need to have, you know, your health and your physical health, your mental health. You have to have things that bring you joy when you're alone. I think there's a lot of people out there right now that don't even know how to like be alone with themselves, which, you know, you're missing out. I think that's a core human experience, is doing things on your own, and being able to find love and joy. And then obviously too, like humans are social creatures. Like we we need to be social. We need to be with other people. We need to have connection. But yeah, suffice to say is like I agree with you. I think that complete me line is a little bit toxic. I think it's more like love fitting like a glove or something like that. It's less about like it's more just something feeling like it meshes versus it needing to like fill a hole inside of you. You know what I mean?
Man, one of my favorite things to do is take myself out to lunch. I'm a blast.
I
Yeah,
love that.
I mean, my computer comes with me. That's kind of my boyfriend, but that's about what I got. And I
No,
don't have
this
friends that like sushi, so taking myself out on sushi dates is just like a very fun thing that I get to do.
I love that you do that. That's amazing. No, I mean, I used to travel. I mean, I still travel a lot for work, but there were a number of years in a row where I had to go kind of solo mission on some work trips, and I like found like one of my favorite memories was being in Cleveland and getting stuck there like overnight because of a storm, and I just like went down to the hotel bar and had myself like a wonderful night by myself, just hanging out, not really like just watching football on TV, maybe talking to the bartender here and there, but in general, like ordering what I wanted to, just kind of being like at peace alone. And it was one of the best experiences ever. And I encourage people all the time to take themselves on solo dates or even just like artist dates. Like go to a museum by yourself for a couple hours or do whatever you got to do. But I think it really, for me at least, and I'm sure you feel the same way, like it refills the well a little bit. It's like, okay, now that I've had this time to ground myself, I'm ready to go out and be with a bunch of people and give myself away. And I can always tell like when I'm deprived of that because I'll go into a social situation with people that I love and people that I love talking to, but like the last thing I want to do is be social because I know that I am craving that like alone recharging experience, you know?
Yeah. Well, so since our show is called the Common Ground Podcast, I actually have to respectfully disagree with you two on something. I did not love myself when I experienced true love for the first time because, and without going into my story, and John, you already know it, but when I became pregnant with my oldest daughter and I lost her to adoption, she was taken from me against my will. I had no love for myself. I had all of the love in the world for this little girl that I adored and didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that anything that I did would be in the name of what was in her best interest and how much I loved her. So it was like for that pie analogy, it was like my whole pie got taken. And I had to figure out how to bake a pie. And I don't even know how to make a sandwich most days at this point in my life. I'm like, I don't know how to take care of myself. And now I'm baking pies to like rebuild these pieces of myself. And so part of my experience with learning to love myself came from that extreme love from her, because I recognized that in order to rebuild this pie, to learn how to do this, that I had to know what I wanted to invest my time and energy into so that I could reinvest that into her later on when she was older and I could have a relationship with her again. One of the solo dates I would take myself on is I would go to this pottery painting place and I would paint by myself and I would paint a cup and I would think of her and I'd write her notes and poems and emails or whatever. One of the dates that I got to go on with her before she moved to France, she painted me this little cup and it's got
Oh my God.
name and birthday at the end. But so that was kind of like my first experience with solo dates. And
Mm-hmm.
so that all of that being said to say that the name of the Common Ground podcast is finding common ground with people. And that was my experience with it. Took me loving someone so much more than I was even capable of loving myself to learn what love meant.
I think that's so powerful. And I like admittedly, like that's an experience that I don't have yet, right? And it's one I can only dream of, but I think you just described what I think is kind of that other element we haven't talked about, which is like having a child. And that changing everything and changing the way that you perceive everything in life. So I love hearing that experience, and I'm so sorry that it was so arduous at first, but you know, yeah, and I hope one day that I can experience that kind of love and that kind of selflessness that you have to be as a parent, and especially in such a tough situation. So I'm really glad you were able to reconnect with her and have that. That's really special.
Absolutely. No, thank you.
No, and I love that story too, and I think that taught you a lot about love and probably definitely helped you in how you how you portrayed love in general. Um, and just so that I am transparent and real obvious on on my on my ex-wife's wedding ring was that You Complete Me. So as much as I just want to be honest and be like, because I am a hopeless romantic. I fell for that. My
The movie
view on
line
that.
fell
My
for
view on
Hollywood.
that. That would never be on another wedding ring that I ever presented again. But we can learn. We all
live and you
make
learn.
mistakes.
Exactly.
Love it.
Exactly. And I appreciate you sharing that and being vulnerable with that, because like you didn't have to admit that. You could have just been like, yeah, like that's a bad line. But I think it's really powerful that you were like, no, I own it and I've learned from it.
Yeah. But as we start to wind down, I want to ask you this question, but I want to ask it in two perspectives. And my question is, what would present DK Lyons, if you could go back to 5-year-old DK Lyons, what would you say to him? But I want you to approach it in two different ways. What would you say to him about the journey of love? And what would you say to him about your love of music? And because at 5 you said to your mom like you're going to be a rock star. So what advice, what would you say to the rock star kid at 5 years old? But also what would you say about your journey of love to him? And
A great question. I think to the rock star kid, I would say, don't be so obtuse and thick-headed. I think I could have been a lot further along if I was a bit more like resourceful. Instead, I was kind of just like, I'm just gonna make music and it'll work out one day. Like I no, that's not how it works, obviously. And I don't think, I wouldn't change anything about my journey to this point, because I think I'm supposed to be where I'm at right now, but could be maybe a lot further along if I was more open to just different ways of learning how to do things, and like the actual mechanics behind it. Keep the love, keep doing what you're doing, always love it. But there's a lot of mechanical things I probably would have loved to have learned earlier than I did. And then in terms of romantic love, I think just in general, like don't let the world make you cynical. I think I got fairly cynical at one point about everything, and then all it took was finding, the right person to change all that. And I think had I known that, I would have not been so like I don't know, negative. We all go through kind of different dark periods, and I think I could have escaped some of that stuff if I had just kind of kept that core faith and that belief. And it's a belief that I've had because of my mom and the way she talks about her relationship, and I questioned it because of what I had seen in the real world, and I shouldn't have questioned it.
I don't know, I think both of those journeys led you to this EP, so I would say I wouldn't have changed anything for you. I'm so excited for your EP. I'm so excited for your journey.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate it.
And we want signed copies just in case.
Done. Done. Whatever you guys need. We got shirts coming soon. We got some hats.
I want to hang your poster in my living room, like on my mantle.
We can make that happen. We can make that happen.
The whole thing, whole nine. So DK, what's next for you?
Oh, $1 million question. So I can't ever stop. I'm already thinking about next projects and things like that. But because I've always had a love for video and visual storytelling, and I've made videos for pretty much every song I've ever done. Just had another video come out yesterday. So we've got more videos in the works to promote this EP. So those will kind of be coming out over the next 9 months or so to kind of, really give the EP as much life as possible and help tell these stories in new ways. And then from there, it'll be more music after that and more shows, and just continuing to try and grow and have each step I take be one that's, moving forward. So
awesome, man. And yeah, I definitely, I know as we grow and as we get big, I know we'll be putting on some kind of events, and I know the artists I want playing at those events. So
I mean, listen, I've got friends down in Philly. I want to play a Philly show so bad. So let's make that happen.
You want to come to Denver?
Hell yeah. I also have friends in Denver. Let's do it.
So yeah, we'll definitely, like, our community will definitely be intertwined, and we're going to be rooting you on. When does your EP officially come out?
Yes, the EP is coming out August 22nd. We've got a really cool show in New York City the night before. We're doing it on a rooftop, which is really, really cool. And we're going to do kind of like an MTV Unplugged style show, which I haven't really done before with my band. We usually play like pretty upbeat, loud rock shows. So trying something different with this one. So really excited to have that happen. And I've got a couple of my good friends on the bill, and it's gonna be a good night.
You're performing in New York that weekend, John? We might be in New York that weekend.
No way.
We've got a conference with JT Fox.
I love that. I will 100% get you guys the info, and if you can come through, you're coming through.
All right.
I
Okay.
love that.
And for our listeners, I know you're listening to this. The EP just came out, so make sure you go download it, buy it, get it. Because I believe this episode is coming out a couple days after your release. So I'm so excited that our listeners who are listening to this right now go out and go get it, download it, make it your Spotify favorite, and be listening to it nonstop. That's going to take us to our next section. And our next section is called Key Takeaways.
Key takeaways.
And so this is just where we talk about what we've learned over this episode. And for me, what I've learned about Is Love Possible is that it's a personal journey. Each one has their own journey to go along, and really take time to look and first of all appreciate the journey. Look at the growth. Look at what you've accomplished, changed. See where you're lacking, and mainly love yourself first. And definitely once you love yourself, love others, pour into, like, don't ever be sad. If you have a passion, chase that passion, love that passion. Go for it. And I'm speaking to the 5-year-old, I'm speaking to the 17-year-old. Heck, I'm 50 and I'm putting out a podcast. So if you're 50 listening to this, you're not too old to follow your passion, to follow what you love to do. Do it. And don't let anything stop you from your first love. And make sure you have other loves so that you keep your love burning and never quit. So they're
Beautiful.
kind of my takeaways from it.
That was really beautiful, John.
I love that we have a hopeless romantic and a cynic on our team because we balance each other very well. I think that my biggest takeaway from this was that love doesn't have to be defined, because DK, like you, I am somebody that tends to operate in black and white. I need answers. It's not a maybe, it's a yes or a no. Even just from my selling career, I don't leave people with a maybe, like we're doing this today or we're not. And so just knowing that there's room to have some gray in certain areas of life and having flexibility and adaptation to that, being patient with the process, not having to rush an agenda with anything, be it, the businesses that you're growing, passions and hobbies that you have, real, like, romantic relationships with friends. Like, it doesn't all have to happen now, and you don't have to know what the future holds. You don't have to see all the cards to just experience it and allow it to be what it's meant to be, an experience, a part of life experience, as you said. And I need to work on that, but that was my biggest takeaway.
No, I love that. I love what you just said about it doesn't all have to be right now. Like, I think that's what I struggle with a lot too. It's like I want to know the end because I want to not worry about it. But it's like that's not how it works. Like that is the journey, is just being resilient through all of that, and the not knowing of what's going to happen next.
Absolutely. So DK, we're going to give you a mic drop moment. If somebody's phone had gone down, they're on the car ride to work, and it comes down as they're pulling up to work, and this is the only thing that they get to take away from our episode here today, what do you want our viewers to know?
Life is all about seeking out love, whether it's romantic, friend, joy. It's all possible. It's all part of the journey. So what choice do you have other than to go after it?
Love that.
Love it. Love it. And for all of our viewers, that at this point in the show, this is when we ask you to comment on whatever platform you're listening to it and tell us your key takeaways. from this episode. We love to read them. We love hearing what you guys feel, what you guys take from each episode. But, it also gives us feedback, what stood out, what worked, and we love that. So please, wherever you're at, whatever platform you're on, comment below and tell us the key takeaway. And as we have announced, we will be giving some giveaways, especially when it comes to the key takeaways. So make sure you're commenting and letting us know. And so we're going to go to our final segment, which is our final 5 questions.
The final 5.
And I'm going to start it off by asking you the first question, and that is, wow, did I just draw a blank on the 5 questions?
I don't even know what it is.
I know them by heart. I'm like, I don't even need to look them up.
I think I even know what it is.
Oh yes, who is your hero and why?
Well, I mean, it'd be remiss if I didn't say my dad is my hero, for all the reasons I kind of laid out. But I'd also put Tom Petty in that aspect. I think they were both very intertwined throughout my whole life. I've always said that Tom Petty was kind of like a father figure to me, growing up, because I learned so much from him about not only just music, but how he lived his life, how he handled his relationships, and I think him and my dad have always been intertwined for so many reasons. So I kind of put them there.
Like that. Very good. All right, question number 2 for you. If love was a game, what would be the winning strategy?
Oh, that is a wonderful question. I think just always be ready to listen and problem solve. Like I think the worst thing you could do is react too quickly or be too aggressive. I think it's really just about, listening and being open to there always being a way out or around or through something. It's not ever like a no or like a dire, you're going to fall off this cliff and be out of the game.
I love that. You want to hear my plan for this?
Yes.
Buy low, hold high is the winning strategy. Believe in people when they're at their lowest. And when you make $1 million with Bitcoin, just hold on to that bad boy.
I need to adopt that strategy for sure.
I got you.
And as a hopeless romantic, I'm just free falling.
You did not just come in with a Tom Petty reference.
I did.
Oh, I love that.
I've been waiting to come up with a Tom Petty.
Yeah, it was appropriate. It was appropriate.
John, you are whatever you ever need. If you ever need a kidney, if you ever need me to bail you out of jail, you just let me know, brother, and I got you.
If anybody's getting bailed out of jail, I'm the one doing the street interviews. I'm gonna need like an SOS. John will always have my location.
Oh, I love that.
So our third question is, what is either one book, one saying, one quote, one verse that either has really greatly impacted you or is your motto,
Yeah, I think when I think about books, I think this is probably an answer for a lot of people, but like The Alchemist has always spoken to me. I read it probably once every few years. I think it really hits hard at what we've been talking about in terms of following passion and love and all these different things in the human journey. And then I always joke, my mom loved Jack Canfield, who's like a inspirational writer. Like she always had every book he'd ever written growing up, and my sister and I always joked like he was our other dad because she would just reference him all the time. But one of like the punchiest phrases that I learned from all that was it's not no, it's next. And I think that's a strategy with anything in life. Like if you're putting yourself out there and someone says no, it's not no, it's just okay, next. And I think it's just a really simple kind of core principle to kind of live by with anything you do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one. That is a good book. I haven't read that in a while. I'm gonna have to pull it off the shelf. What is the best advice that you received early on in your career?
That's a good question. I I mean, again, it's probably pretty cliche, but just like make what you love. Like, I think that's really what I try to remember, like we talked about earlier, remind myself of is like, I am the first audience. I'm going to be the audience that consumes what I'm making the most. And I think if I'm not making something that I love, then why am I making it? And so I think one of my early producers, Steve, who one of my mentors, I think is the one who told me that right off the jump.
Love it.
Awesome. And the final question for the final 5 is if you could sit down, have a conversation and a beer with someone living or dead, who would it be and why?
Also such a great question. I'll give a different answer to kind of also showcase my other musical influence. And this may be controversial to some, especially if you're a Swiftie, but I'm a huge fan of the 1975. I think Matty Healy is one of the most fascinating songwriters, musicians, societal tropes. I would love to get a beer with him and just pick his brain on what's been going through his head the last 10 years with everything he's done. And if you don't know, I'm sure you could find it pretty quickly. But one of my musical heroes for sure, and also just fascinating human.
I was really afraid you were going to say Taylor Swift when I heard Swiftie. And I was like, we have to delete this whole episode.
No, the whole episode is getting thrown in the trash.
Thing away, yeah. All credibility gone in one state. I would have given you one more chance if you had said that. That was a much better answer than where I thought we were headed with that.
Yeah, no, Swifties hate him. So like, I don't want to draw the ire of any Swifties out there. But,
okay, all right.
That's the context.
I love it. Well, okay. And then let me know too where we can, and I think we have the links for these too, but where is the best place that people can find you after watching this episode if they want to follow you, get a hold of you, see what you're up to, and follow your music?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can watch all my music videos on YouTube, DK Lyons Music. It's DK Lyons on Spotify. And then on Instagram, it's DK Lyons 714. If anyone listening to this wants to reach out, have a conversation, tell me your hopes and dreams. I'm very much, about community, just like you guys are. I think that's why what you do is so special, because it's kind of the fundamentals of human connection. So please reach out, and I hope you get the chance to listen to the music and enjoy it.
Awesome.
And again, to our viewers, listen, please, I just implore you to support this man. You've just got to hear a lot of his journey, a lot of his thoughts. And I really just let's make this EP the best selling record that he'll ever experience.
Listen, DK Lyons is like the next Bitcoin of music.
Yes.
Hold high. Get in now.
Yes.
Love it.
Bye. And so remember, when we take the time to get to hear each other's stories, it allows us to find common ground. Thank you again, DK. It's been an awesome episode. It's been an awesome time getting to know you. And I definitely look forward to following your journey and just watching the rise happen. But for myself and Sydney, it's been a pleasure to be your host. And you've been listening to The Common Ground. God bless. Have a good night, and go and buy the CD. Bye-bye.
And that's it for today's episode of the Common Ground podcast. We hope you're leaving with a little more perspective, a little more purpose, and a whole lot more inspiration.
So thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. Thank you to our special guest.
If today's conversation moved you, encouraged you, or challenged you in any way, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, rate it, leave us a review. Your support helps us reach more people who need to find their own common ground.
So for John Fletcher and Sydney Curtin,
we'll see you right here next week, same time, same place on the Common Ground podcast. Make it a great week.